missed it, we do 16? 16. At a 30-minute marker, you'll hear us. You're going to take us to the commercial break today? You're going to, at the 30, I'll give you the signal. You're going to let us know we're having a music break today.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
Just shocking me and making me do stuff that I don't normally do.
That's okay.
Keep everyone on their toes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll do the intro and the close, and then you do the music break.
Yeah, well, just don't stress me out about it, Kat.
Just breathe.
Tell me,
Just
point to me or something.
We're all stardust here.
And I always, I'll just.
Huh? Commercial break?
Not a commercial. It's not a commercial. It's a music break. Right.
I said commercial?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We
It's
believe
a music break.
you. You ready?
It's
3.
a music break.
You're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM Oakland and streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. This is the Anything Can Happen show with Kenya Asa, Quizzy Dreams, and your man Cat Fitness. Today is the day.
It is the day.
It is the day.
It is the day.
The energy in the studio, man. We have a very, very special guest. That just she
we already have her giggling. She's already giggling.
She came in. She hasn't said too much, but the energy, the aura this woman's giving off in the studio.
Yes,
I know
that
today.
Is true. That is true.
Everybody, first of all, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share, all those great things for the show. Because today we're gonna tap in to a whole nother realm. I feel like just because
really.
That's what I feel.
Is it what's making you feel that today?
It's energy. I feel energy.
Okay. I'm feeling a vibration.
The vibration in this room is amazing.
It is a vibration. It's a whole vibe.
It is a vibe. Do you know who we have in the studio today? Over there,
do you know who we have in the studio today? Oh, you do?
This is the first time.
Because you looking at me like you asking, you're looking for answers.
No.
Okay.
The answers is within. That's the kind of conversation we're having today. The answers are within.
Wait. The answers are within. The only question now is then what are the questions? The answers are within.
See, it hasn't even been a minute into the show and the conversation's already gone there.
Okay.
And she hasn't even said a word. Her presence is making us.
Yes, her presence. Well, so first of all, I do also want to say that her outfit is I love it so much because I'm a big fan of like the drapey thing. I love a drapey thing, and this kind of coral peach tie-dye action, and then the bright pop of lime green. The folks in our audience, if you are not like watching live, you cannot see this beautifulness that this is super cute outfit. But I just have to say that being a clothing lover and a, recipient
a fashion
of the
guru?
San Francisco Fashion Award, I do happen to love this outfit. And we want to introduce her finally. Okay. Finally, we have
a proper introduction.
Yes. Guys. Okay. So we have Shirley Johnson, LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist.
I think a lot of us need that kind of therapy these days, especially after COVID. I know you must have got a lot of business during COVID. Like everybody was going through it during COVID. Man, it's like. I don't know you. I have to spend time with you right now. Like, who are you?
We might need to go there today.
Yeah, we're normally like
about couples.
Oh, goody.
We're normally 12 hours apart.
So do
I. Now I have to spend extra 12 hours a day with you.
Yes.
And I didn't know you were like this.
Yes.
This
is one of my favorite topics. And I'm not a licensed MFT yet, but I am going to be. I believe I'm going to go finally get my license. Finally, it's a long story. I don't want to get my mom all excited. Anyway, I want to say welcome. Thank you. For our listeners know that I get extra excited when it's women in business on the show, and especially women who are in this particular business. Can I ask you, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this work and what kind of work you specialize in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the lovely introduction. Y'all gassing me up so hard. Thank you for the gas. What? How did I get started? Well, the first way I got started as a therapist is because I was a client.
Ooh, okay.
And back in 2009, I think, I went to India and I did my first yoga teacher training. And I had this fantasy. I've been a yoga practitioner for a few years. I still am. Love yoga. I still practice, teach. And I had this fantasy. I was going to go do this yoga teacher training in India. And I was going to come back to New York where I lived at the time. And I just was going to be a new person. All my problems were going to be washed away.
Oh.
And in fact, what I found was all my quote unquote problems were amplified and brought to the surface
So
through that yoga journey and that self-inquiry journey I had been on for a month or more. And all the little control mechanisms that I had done in the past to try to really put everything under the carpet.
Yeah.
We're not going to work. I knew. I was like, this is not going to be fixed by a juice cleanse or
the juice cleanse doesn't work for this.
Oh my God.
Is that what you're?
I use juice cleanses.
IG has lied to me.
To manage a lot of issues in my life, but I
serious.
realized, these issues is beyond the juice cleanse.
Okay.
Right. Well, isn't it interesting? I'm a yoga teacher as well, and isn't it interesting how I don't know if it is yoga in this country, or I don't really know what it is, where we feel like yoga will remove all of our problems, or we're kind of sold this bill of goods that it'll remove all of our problems. But what happens often is it makes you so in tune with yourself, and it makes you so in tune with the world around you and the people around you, and so hypersensitive that what it really does is it shines a light on anything that could possibly be going on that you don't really want to face sometimes. Do you feel like that? Because I certainly, that's what yoga and meditation did for me, for sure.
Yeah, I think it will bring to the surface. I love Kundalini yoga now. That's another part of my practice. It's a different training I've done, which is the yoga of awareness, which is about bringing everything that is unconscious into consciousness, which I believe is what the whole school, or the whole bigger umbrella of yoga does. But I think, we live in a country and a society and culture that wants a quick fix, wants to look
It's a microwave society.
Yeah, wants to look at the quote unquote problem and isolate it. The same thing goes on in the physical body and health, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you have diabetes. Well, let's just treat the blood sugar rather than what is happening actually through the whole endocrine system, your whole hormone system that is creating different insulin levels. When we need certain things.
Let's get to the root of it.
And also let's get to the root of why you won't address the issue at the crux of the issue. Like what it is. Like we talk about food a lot on this show. Of course, we've got Mr. Cat Fitness over there, aptly named. And we talk a lot about the foods that we put into our body, but also what is causing us to continue to put foods into our body that we know are not only not nourishing us, but can also be harming us. And so, there's so many layers to the problem, emotional, physical, stress, all those things.
Yeah, and I imagine also then there's the question of how do we be gentle with the part of ourselves that maybe does think certain foods or behaviors are nourishing, has learned that that's where they get nourishment from. Because also I think calling it sometimes a problem makes it a problem rather than a lot of what I do in my work. I'm sure many therapists do this too, is really bringing curiosity. Like, how can I stay curious? Like, oh wow, I'm reaching for more ice cream. What's happening in me? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, even people in the
it's
wellness
the kid.
field.
I was going to tap in. It's the kid inside of you that wasn't allowed to have that ice cream at the time. And
There's
now I have the
that.
freedom to have as much ice cream as I can.
Mhm.
And now I'm taking full advantage of that childhood self.
Or you
Can we
get
go
dental
there?
work
Let's
done,
go there.
or you get dental work done, and your doctor's like, eat soft things, and you're like, oh no, I have to eat ice cream for days and days. It sounds awful, you know.
Yum. Yeah, that I love that part. Cat, yeah.
So let me ask you, in your bio that we read, my mic is drooping. Anyway, it's you were talking about some of the work you do with couples. Can I ask you what caused you to have that, again with curiosity, have that kind of interest in talking to couples? Are you talking to all kinds of couples? Are you boyfriends, girlfriends, married, not married,
Yeah, my practice, I work with individual, adults only,
Mhm.
and couples.
Mm-hmm.
Part of getting licensed as a LMFT, you have to either have a certain amount of hours as a couple with couples or families.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it worked out to do with couples, and I found, wow, I love working with couples. I love relationship dynamics. Probably since I was a small child, part of that love comes from trying to figure it out myself.
Mm.
I always was like, all right, God, you have given me so much rich experience in all types of dysfunctional and functional relationships, and I know there is a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, and I'm very happily in a relationship right now too, that has been informed by so many experiences. But I have always been curious about human dynamics, and I think just starting with my parents. My parents got divorced by the time I was 5. They had a very tumultuous relationship that I witnessed,
Mm-hmm.
and also obviously they had some kind of connection that brought them together, that brought me and my beautiful younger brother to the world.
Mm-hmm. So you were 5 when they broke up, and you remember.
Oh yeah.
Really? Okay, so as someone whose parents also broke up when they were 5, and I also remember, I'm curious to hear how that affected because this is something that is very familiar to me in my personal life. So, and I don't often hear where this happened with other people. So just out of my own personal curiosity, how did that, if you don't mind sharing, how did that affect you moving forward in relationship and trying to have a healthy relationship?
The short answer is that the short answer.
Oh Lord!
Don't lie to us
What
today, Shirley.
I won't. I don't even know if I'm capable of lying anymore.
Right.
But what in the long run, what I saw, how it impacted me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of my bio also. What I think happened was I got so focused on being an academic high performer.
Oh,
By
interesting.
the time I was 5, my aunt said, get Shirley tested. They got my IQ tested. I was able to place into a certain school that was outside of where I live. And what I saw, and I think what I introjected, like this term of like what I took in was like, as a woman, as a young woman in the neighborhood I was growing up in, don't get caught up with a man. Mm-hmm. Because you going to potentially end up hurt, mm-hmm. broken up with, single mama, etc.
Mm-hmm. Because that was the reality of the community.
That was the reality of the community, and that's part of what I saw with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
After my parents they broke up because my father was physically violent with my mother. Mm-hmm. So, I saw like it's dangerous. Yeah. So it's been many years of trusting the masculine within me, learning to trust the masculine in other men and women. Yeah. One of the things that I think was so helpful, I danced Cuban salsa for years. Yeah. And having to, come up to whoever the leader was and be so close to them and intimate, but also be like, we're not getting involved. Like, this ain't a date. This is it. We're not gonna have sex.
Right.
To still go hold and learn to trust and learn to feel into that energy. So I think for me, it just made me, I took that route. The way I adapted was I became very good at school. so that I wasn't gonna be the girl who got distracted.
Interesting.
So I could stay focused on my
So
goals.
I could stay focused, and also like, and I think this is true when I talk, especially in therapy, especially with a lot of Black women professionals. There's like this wound of the ways that many of us had to give up some of our like desire and erotic nature because of the neighborhoods, communities, that families we grew up in, and we learned how to be really smart. And we got rewarded for it.
Oh yes,
right?
oh for sure. And my parents are both academics, and so.
And then when you get rewarded for it, it also reinforces a reward system in oneself. That's like, oh, this is the good way to be. Oh, I got an award, and my parents are happy. This is a good way to be. And then it's
so
like
the programming started.
Yes, and then it's also and now I'm going to even drift farther away from this part of me that is an animal and human and wants to have this kind of intimate connection, but is going to keep going this way because that's where all the juice is. That's where I'm getting all the positive quote unquote feedback.
Right.
So did you ever have a chance to get with your father and get to a better understanding of why he did what he did at that time in his life? Was it something that he was exposed to as a kid and that was his reality? And because it's generational healing that has to go on at times. So he could have saw his father do that, or some kind of male figure to the females around him, and that's how he thought people interacted, or that's how they expressed love,
that's
or whatever. Exactly. So
children live what they learn.
Exactly. So was it ever a chance to kind of tap into that, or was it never an opportunity? Or
I had some conversations with him as an adult around it. His response, and I think part of what was true, was that they both were physically violent with each other. I think the impact he had on her was bigger. Because she would be, he's physically stronger.
Sure.
There was some charge between them. They would take out violence on each other. Honestly, I think it was a hard topic for him to discuss. I think it's a hard topic for my whole family to hold, his side of the family, to really accept, like, he had some violence issues, because he's also a genius. So he's a man who's a freaking musical, artistic genius. That shadow part. My imagination, though, is that my father's Black, my mom is white, and in some levels, this is probably like the psychoanalytical part of me that also thinks about so much of the anger of him. He had the poster of when Jackie Robinson integrated the league up in his house until the day he died.
Wow.
My father was not a sports person. He's a musician. But there's something, he had that photo, and I imagine that was from his childhood. There was something important to him. So when I think about the imprint of what it was to be a Black man who was born in 1947, growing up in a very Italian neighborhood in New York City, I imagine there had to be so much anger and so much violence he experienced, even though he was very, he had a lot of bravado, a lot of swag. That I imagine in some ways sometimes comes out in interracial relationships. I think that's one of the shadows of interracial relationships that people don't talk about often, but that's what I imagine.
I can imagine that as well.
So your dad was a musician.
Yeah.
What about your mom?
Also a musician.
Oh,
he was
okay.
his student.
Okay.
Adult student. He was a jazz guitarist. She was a flutist.
Okay.
She also plays. They both play multiple instruments.
That's interesting. That's an interesting dynamic. Two musicians as parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a musician as well?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think my family would disagree because I think music also, being a musician and an artist is a state of mind also. Right? It's not just like I put out this song, I'm a musician, but I have a deep love of music. One of actually, I guess, that interrupts my story if I'm not a musician is I do sound healing.
Okay.
So, but it allows me to play very intuitively.
So you are a musician.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you're just not.
It's
just, I think there's so many different. There's kind of a set idea sometimes of like what a musician is, and people, and I tell my son this because my son's name is Zeppelin. Because I'm a musician, and he has a very musical heart. He went to music camp this past summer, and he doesn't identify himself as a musician because he doesn't like play. I mean, he plays an instrument, but not really. And he sings and stuff like that, but he still doesn't like call himself a musician. And I call him a musician. He's like, I'm not a musician. I'm like, your soul is a musician. You have a musical soul, and that is the kind of the most important thing in your life is music, and so it's okay to to say, just because you're not doing A, B, and C, you've got that musical spirit.
So Shirley, I got a quick question. So for you to do the work that you do with the community, what did you have to tap in within yourself to figure out, to better understand what a relationship should look like, to explain that and be able to teach others, since you grew up in the environment that you did as a kid?
Yeah, and I think this is an ongoing exploration.
Oh yeah, just like working out, staying in shape.
I heard on a podcast the other day this really amazing herbalist say that sickness is part of health, right? Like that the journey, like we're on this continuum, and that, right, like the days you don't work out or the days you don't do ABC are also part of health overall in general. Even when we get sick, that's part of our health, recovery. What is some of the work I've had to do? I mean, lots of work, lots of inquiry around, and there's still so much I have to do. With the couple stuff, I think I've been in so many different types of relationships, and I believe that has helped me to be able to sit in the midst of, sometimes it's couples, boyfriend and girlfriend, sometimes it's two spouses, sometimes it's sometimes it's people who are uncoupling. Sometimes it's people who have been married for 20 years, who have 2 kids. Sometimes it's people who just got married. I think a big part is just being able to come into wherever we are and just be present, right? I'm just going to be present with these people because as me and you talked about, Kat, when I came in, like there is such a thin, subtle line between coming in and trying to fix and coming in and being present.
Yes.
My goal is to be present.
Yeah, and really, I feel like my personal opinion is that that's what people need the most, because they already know what their own issues, I think, for the most part, or what they perceive to be their issues are. So a lot of stuff comes out during therapy, during any kind of counseling thing. But I think that a lot of times there's one person or both people in the couple that feels maybe like they're not being seen or not being heard. And then what they need is that witness, that might be one of the most important things.
So you don't feel like you're going crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, that's certainly, I think that's certainly part of it. Because I do believe, do you believe this too, Shirley, that there's somebody in the couple, because sometimes you're just getting gaslighted by your partner, right? Where you're thinking to yourself, is it just me? Am I crazy? Do you get that a lot with your couples?
Yeah, sometimes. I also, and not to discredit the times that anyone has been gaslit in their life. And I also feel like curious, I have this theory that anytime someone's being cheated on, because that's a big one that comes up too, right?
Oh, sure.
Infidelity or opening good relationship from monogamous to polyamorous. That there's always, I have this theory that like anytime we get cheated on, and I have been one of those people who's gotten cheated on, there's a part of us that knows. And there's a part of us that has to actually actively work to be in denial, right? Because sometimes we don't want to see it. We don't want to accept that, he doesn't call me back ever, or never hang out with him on Saturdays, right? And so even with the gaslighting thing, I think part of what my hope is in being present with people is that, as we're humans, we're animals, we're mammals. Our nervous system's attuned to each other. So if I'm in the space and I'm able to hold still and really hold space for seeing like this bigger picture, then hopefully I'm hoping some of my clients also can then like maybe slow down a little bit and see what it is that perhaps they have been actively working to deny seeing.
Yeah.
Because people work really hard to avoid things.
They absolutely do.
They don't.
I do it too. I'm not outside of that spectrum.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, a lot of people want to avoid conflict, right? So if I avoid this conflict, if I don't say anything, there's not going to be any kind of back and forth argument. Everything's just going to go, how it's been going. But not addressing it makes it kind of bigger in the long run. It continues to grow and grow and grow.
But not just avoiding conflict, just avoiding hurt and feeling rejected. So it's some people, it takes so much out of them to even get into a relationship to begin with because of whatever they went through in their childhood issues or whatever. Then they finally say, okay, I'm going to let go. I'm going to trust or whatever. And then kablam, and you don't want to feel that like rejection after years and years and years of fighting, even taking that risk.
But that could go back to childhood trauma once again.
Oh, yes.
Because that could
definitely
be a man or a female that didn't have their mom in their life or didn't have their dad in their life. And now you don't want to lose something that you have that you once didn't have as a kid. Now you have and don't want to lose it again because also, you get that certain nourishment through that person.
Yeah. And also societally, there's like this embarrassment, how for women, there's so much put into like getting married or getting a man, and it's so validating. You're finally somebody if somebody picks you, and we've got this whole pick me culture, and it's just so pitiful because you're just fine by yourself. You're fine with somebody, you're fine without somebody, you're fine because you're fine.
Ooh, go to preach today.
I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying.
On the other side of that, one thing, and I agree with everything you said. And I also, one of the parts of my journey has been actually being like, I'm not fine being by myself. Has been actually, I need a partner. As a woman, as a human, animal, female, I was designed to be in partnership and community.
Yeah.
So this whole, it's okay to be single. Like I got to a point where I was like, no, it's not. Like I will not tolerate this. God, you did not put me on this planet to be doing this by myself.
Right.
And I think that sometimes that rhetoric of like, I'm fine can become not always. Can become this hardened defense mechanism.
Well, I agree.
That will repel the possibility of what actually usually when a person is hardened up, there's a part of them that's really tender that's actually like,
I agree.
For that mutual existence. That's what we're born. We're not solo animals.
Right. And I totally agree with that. I feel like the problem lies, at least for me, seeing like how these things pan out, is that some people, again, I'm mostly talking about women, are made to feel like if they're in this space where they're not in a partnership, that there's something wrong with them. And sometimes you're just in that space to learn more about yourself, to make yourself the kind of partner that you feel like you want to be, and so there is that space where you're not in partnership, where you are not invalid because you're not in partnership. Maybe you are preparing yourself for your appropriate person.
And I think because how it was looked upon once upon a time, it was a business transaction.
Sure.
Like
once upon a time.
Well,
my mother was like, marriage is
okay.
business.
Honey, listen, it is a business. Okay.
But now the expectations for certain people that have grown up and seen these fairy tale relationships, now that's the expectation. I'm supposed to be living this fairy tale relationship. Every day is supposed to be a perfect day. And when it's not a perfect day, guess what? Oh my God, you're not the right person.
Yeah. And that's also that microwave culture, because what I'm learning about, and I sometimes will call it relationship, is that, right? Like just everything you just said, Kat, like it's a practice every day of being present and intimate for whatever is on your side and on the partner side. Like to be like, wake up, I'm great and joyful, wake up and I'm crying. The other day I just woke up crying. I don't know why. And my partner's like, okay. But that's actually part of the development that I believe leads to emotional maturity. We focus a lot in psychology, right? Often on childhood development. Oh, these are the
Yeah.
markers for children. And we don't focus as much on being adults. There's also developmental stages.
Absolutely.
And part of our development is by interacting with others. We can't,
Yeah.
you know, and I totally hear you. I've been in that. I've been in solo journey, vision quest for myself, and I respect for sure. There's a season for everything, right?
Yeah, there is, and I'm so glad you said that too, because I do think that when it comes to development, people change, and if you're somebody who wants to be or aspires to be or is working to be in a relationship, quote unquote, a long-term relationship, there are so many changes, and I think people focus a lot on women and having babies and gaining weight, and they're not what they used to be and all this other stuff. But there are so many other ways where all of us change, and to pretend like you're going to be married or in a relationship or in a partnership with the same person that you were in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago is delusional.
And I think I'm going to be the same person in a relationship for 5 years, 10 years.
Absolutely.
And don't expect me to grow.
Right.
And change.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the same.
Well, I just want to say really quick that we're going to have a music break here on KGPC 96.9 FM, Oakland, and streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. Kat, can you take us away to a music break?
Oh yeah, this is Zane, and the song is called "She's So Fine." All right, we got.
I always watch Quincy sit here and read that. Just like, okay, I'm
We
just
got
gonna
3
read
minutes until we come back from
Oh.
So we're halfway through.
Awesome.
Once we get to like the 50-minute marker, then we'll start talking about more of what you have going on with those workshops, if you're taking new clients or anything like that. Yeah. How you feeling so far?
Good.
So far, so
I
good?
love chatting with y'all. This is very fun. This is
Awesome.
fun. I'm like,
I'm gonna go
Yeah.
to the little girl's room since I have a minute.
Yeah. You got 2 minutes.
Okay.
No rush. Oh, that's so fun having you.
I love talking about all relationship elements. So I'm like, yeah, let's dig in.
Yeah, I got some stuff to say for you.
Yes. One of my yoga teachers says marriage is the highest form of yoga. Like, right, like that, really staying present. Like, that presence of like, here I come. Because that's what, like, I'm here. And I don't know what it's going to be on the other side. But there's some reflection for me there. It's 24/7 mirroring.
Yeah. The person I'm spending the most time with, the lessons that I'm supposed to be learning about myself. You know what I'm saying? What about this person? Why is that irritating me?
That's right.
What's making me mad about that?
That's right.
It's something I see within myself that I haven't addressed, and I see it in you, and now I'm shaming myself for and using you as a vessel.
Right, where I'm projecting it onto you. My father told me when I was 4 years old, he said, Shirley, I was talking about my brother. I said, my brother, he made me feel better. My father looked at me in the face and said, nobody can make you feel anything. I was like,
I tell my kids, and I'm like, Dad, Kevin's making me this. So he can't make you do anything. You're choosing that right now.
You didn't say it like that. Nope. But I get it. I see how that has prepared me for life.
Yeah,
even though.
You want me to bring us back?
Yes, please.
Okay. We got 30 seconds.
Just trying to get in, get out. Nothing fancy.
All right. We got 10 seconds. I'll bring us in. And that was Zane with "She's So Fine." You're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM Oakland and streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. This is the Anything Can Happen show with Kenya Asa, Quizzy Dreams, and your man, Cat Fitness. If y'all are just tuning in, man, you got to go back to the beginning of this episode because it's been so much great information, especially for the couples and those that are in relationships right now. So if you're in a relationship, you might want to stay tuned for the second half because we got Miss Shirley Johnson in the building.
We do.
And she is giving some real game away today.
For
y'all.
real, though. And so, you touched on a topic that I want to delve into a little deeper.
You got Kenya's attention on the topic right now?
You did. You got my attention as we talk about couples and growth and change. You said polyamory.
I did. I used the P word.
You used the P word, and I have so many conversations and discussions about polyamorous relationships. Could you please talk to us a little bit about what that typically looks like? And I have questions.
Yeah, well, I want to be very clear. I don't think it typically looks like anything.
Yeah.
I think part of what has been misleading about that word and that term is that it looks like just everyone having sex with them.
The wild orgy parties.
Yeah.
And it looks like somebody, being so mesmerized sexually that they leave their primary partner. And I want to just normalize, like, it can be so many things.
Yeah.
And in some ways, we're all in a polyamorous spectrum.
Yeah.
If you flirt with someone, I think it's very, what's the word? Unrealistic to think, especially if you're with someone long term, you're never going to maybe look at another person
or be attracted to somebody else.
Be attracted, and it doesn't mean you have to even act on the attraction, but I do think there is something powerful in a relationship when a person can say, yeah, I was kind of attracted to them, or like, she's fine,
right,
they look good,
right,
without it becoming like, oh my god, that means you're going to leave me, that means that you don't love me, right? Like,
where those insecurities,
right, or that I'm not fine enough, or whatever.
It's so much. It really highlights how much either or thinking we have in our culture.
Absolutely.
Either me or you, versus like, well, for some people, and I also think some people are monogamous. Like, I don't think there's one way everyone is. Like, it's about what works for you,
right?
And also being honest with oneself. I hear so many people who cheat.
Right.
Part of me is like, what?
Right.
Just tell your partner that there's something you want and you're not getting with them, or that you have an attraction to someone. Sometimes just telling the partner, I wish we could do this thing, right?
Having clear boundaries.
And also clear communication.
I
like this kind of sex. I like that kind of being taken out that way. I feel special when you do ABC.
But then you're dealing with your partner. If you know your partner, and you know that this is not going to fly with your partner. Your partner has an ego. Say, for example, I'm not saying that that's always the case, but say, for example, your partner's ego lives and breathes on your total devotion and attention to just them. And so you know that about your partner. So why would you bring up something that's just going to piss him or her off?
Well, my question before that would be, why would you be with someone and in an agreement if you know, unless you're willing to be that object who gives all that devotion?
Right.
Why would you say yes to something that, to me, that situation doesn't sound sustainable?
Because maybe you've changed.
Right. So
maybe, change people. We just had a conversation in the first half about people changing.
You change, one changes. So then to me, actually, like, telling that partner that, because this is also one of my favorite topics, is not doing emotional caretaking for people or for our partners. So if we're worried that my partner is going to freak out and be upset and offended, etc., I'm caretaking for that person.
Yeah.
He might need to get upset and offended to awaken, right? As we were talking about, whatever is going on underneath that makes him feel insecure, that makes him feel scared. So I think actually, like,
part of
if
their
I'm
growth
being
process.
exactly, and I'm robbing him and me of my growth
Yeah.
process if I'm just like, well, he has a fragile ego.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's try to strengthen it because it's going to stay fragile. We know in our lives, if we don't engage with something, it doesn't make us stronger or
That's
more
very
or
true.
more able to do it. It actually just, it's like what you call it, atrophies.
So Kenya, are you saying
Yes.
over years that person becoming more attached to you because of the relationship you've been in, or starting that relationship off like that? That's my
I
kind
don't
of
know if
question.
it's about attachment. I don't know if it's about that. I think what can happen is that people in partnership will start off with certain behaviors and priorities. Say, for example, because you're young and you're just different. I've been with my husband for 27 years. It is not the same. Okay, let me just be real with that. 27 years later, and we've been married, it'll be 20 years in November. I am the same person, and I'm also not the same person. And I've said this many times on this show. Rest in peace to that original person that he was with, who actually wasn't really the original me. He met me someplace in the middle there. And so as I hearken back to original me, the real me, maybe it's true that he never met that person. And that's not his fault. Do you know what I mean? And so then, you know, but then when you think about things as dramatic as, it could be something like, I don't want to live here anymore, which, Kat knows is we plan to move to Costa Rica, right? It could be something like that. Or it could be like what you and I were just talking about, which is polyamory. Maybe, when people start in a relationship, they think, oh, this is what I want. It's just going to be me and you against the world, babe. And blah, 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 blah. And then later on, you're like, I might want another partner or another piece of a different something going on, and it's hard, I think, because I've watched a lot, I've read a lot of things, and I have a friend actually that was in a polyamorous relationship some years ago, a guy, and I do think that it's hard, not just dealing with people's egos, but dealing with the idea of getting left by somebody that you really, really love, or creating a serious problem in that person where they feel like they're not enough and blah blah blah, because that's kind of our society here in this country is like that. We're told you marry one person, and not only just one person, but one person of the opposite gender. And it can be very limiting 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road.
I mean, bravo to you for making it that long, because now, right, what we're seeing with the divorce rates, I think, is a reflection of this.
Absolutely.
Is that actually, and I had said to Kat during the break that in the Kundalini yoga tradition, they say marriage is the highest form of yoga. And part of that is, right, because you're showing up every day, right? You show up to your mat 24/7. And, right, so, like, I think that it takes a lot of fortitude and stamina, right, to go through the ups and downs, the sicknesses, the health, the money in the bank account, but no money in the bank account, all of it. And I think also, to your point, like, I don't think actually most people in our culture today are like building the energetic muscle to stay in long-term relationships.
I think I mentioned this off air as well. Is like when I got to a point, because I've been in my relationship with my wife 20 years, almost straight. We broke up once in that 20-year span, but then we got back together. But just recently, as I've been doing the work probably in the last 8 years on myself, I had to start asking questions. Like I think I said off air, it's like, when you're doing something, why does that trigger something in me? And not putting that energy onto you, looking into me now, like, why did that just trigger me? Why did that make me upset? Why did that make me feel insecure? Why did that make me feel that? Start asking those questions. And as I've been approaching the relationship like that, I've been seeing the work I have to do within me. at one point in our relationship, very early in a relationship, I'm a very caring person. Like, what would get me upset in a relationship was, I know what I would do in this situation. Why aren't you doing it? Right? Having those expectations. Everything that I would do in this moment, why aren't you showing me that same affection? Why aren't you showing me, why aren't you being as vulnerable as I am in this moment?
And maybe it's not a why aren't you, but I'm going to tell you what I need.
Yeah. But
Right.
having those expectations of, you should already know me. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yes.
Have these psychic powers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Read my mind.
And I think
Lord.
that the communication is key, especially in a long-term relationship. If you're expecting to be with somebody, you have to communicate those feelings and
Well,
not
you
hold
want
those things.
to. You want to sometimes, Kat, but people know who their partner is. People know their partner, and they will. And there are a lot of people out there, because I've done a lot of couples counseling and all kinds of other stuff. People know, I cannot bring this information to this person, because if I do, I'm going to pay the price.
So if we're talking about people being who they are in that present moment, you assume that because of a situation that happened
Yes.
whenever in
Yes.
that relationship.
Yes.
I might not be that person today.
Sure.
And
Sure.
we need to address
But
that.
what if you are? What if your partner knows that you are?
It still needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Because how will it change?
Yeah.
Right.
No,
You know?
I'm in agreement, but I'm thinking about all the people that might be listening out there. Anything can happen, family. Tap in, let us know if tap in on our IG live and let us know what you think, because I am of the mind, I've been with one person since dinosaurs roamed the earth, and I am of the mind, and I know a lot of people that are in my age group or even younger that have been in relationship for longer than I have, and a lot of women that I know will say, girl, it is not worth it. I'm not trying to bring up this, that, or the other, because I don't want to be punished, emotionally and stuff like that. But then I've got these kids, I've got this life, I've got this house that are keeping me here. And I love my partner, but do I want to deal with his nonsense?
Well, I think to that point, I think there is something to that. Like, yeah, we have the right to choose what we're going to bring up. My mom used to say, she'd say, pick your battles.
Yes.
Right.
Self-protection sometimes.
But, and then it's my responsibility. If I say, I'm not going to bring this up, I'm not going to rock the boat, whatever, because we have all this other stuff we need to keep intact, this is the time, whatever, then I cannot blame my partner for their behavior or whatever their approach is to it, because it means I have not stepped up to say I have an issue with this and I have a need.
Right.
I cannot expect that person to fulfill my needs.
That's right.
If I am not willing to communicate.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling this.
Right. Right.
So it's fine. I can do that, but in my mind, mouth zipped. I don't have any complaints to give.
You don't have any complaints to give, but I have one friend that shall obviously remain nameless.
Share her name. People want to know, Kate.
I didn't say it was her. I didn't say it was her. Cat Fitness. I didn't say all that.
Okay, so share his name since it's not her.
I'm just going to share them. I'm going to share their name. I'm going to share their situation.
Story. Okay.
But this person left their partner and then got with somebody else who they are now very happily married to. And part of it was because that person's partner was not willing to, it's like Jack Nicholson said in the movie, you can't handle the truth. Okay. The partner could not handle this person's truth. When this person finally brought the truth to the partner, and also got into
about what they were into, or like
not necessarily. It wasn't really. I think it was just a general malaise, a general unhappiness in the relationship, and they did not feel comfortable coming to the partner, and when they did, they were met with a problem. And so my friend was like, well, this didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. And I tried to open up, and they even went to counseling, some sort of church counseling, which, you guys, listen, for those of you that love the Lord, I'm with you. However, your minister that like went to the 9th grade and that's about it is not a therapist. Okay. Your youth counselor is not a therapist. Get you somebody that knows what they're doing. Okay. And so that was what I think was
Shirley Johnson.
Get you a Shirley Johnson, honey. Okay. Get you somebody with some letters behind their names that aren't junior. Okay. Get you somebody. And so that did not go the way that my friend and the partner, that their spouse had anticipated.
Sounds like it went better if friend is happily married in new relationship.
Friend is happily married in new relationship.
And so it did go well. I mean, in my mind, like
both of them actually
are
happily married in new relationships.
They found what they needed. What
they did.
Actually attuned to them. And
they did.
You know, to this point of changing, that when they were younger or different people, they worked. Yeah. And that it took courage, I imagine, for them to say, you know, now the people we've grown into,
it's a different dynamic.
It takes so much courage to do that. So I applaud them.
It does.
And I also, you know, I also just want to say, you know, to the lay counselors, like, yeah, they have some medicine too. You know, I think depending on what you need, it's not a complete intervention, but I want to shout out some of them doing their thing. Sure. When I watch like Married at First Sight, I don't know if y'all watch that.
I do.
I watch all of the relationship shows.
Oh my gosh, I love Married at First Sight.
But when I hear like what's his name, Pastor, I'm like, bruh, it's not hitting for the way that if I had a relationship, the things that he's saying, I'm like. And I also what I see in my watching Married at First Sight, and seeing how like they avoid seeing like certain dynamics between the couples and being like, oh, that is not gonna work.
Right.
Like, you just need to, you know,
it drives me crazy.
More communicative. And I'm like, you're casting people on this show who are extremely traumatized.
Yeah.
But anyways,
absolutely.
That's a whole nother rant right there.
That's a whole other thing.
And I just feel
I
like
love the show. It's very interesting.
I love that show. And I do feel like bringing now if somebody is going to their pastor or whoever, or their youth council, whoever it is in the church that they're getting their marital counseling from or whatever, I think that it's important to understand that this person is limited in what they're able or allowed through their church to even say to you or to advise to you, because it's supposed to be, you know, kind of Christian based or
an agenda.
Or some yes, there is an agenda. And so sometimes the agenda leads to people sticking it out longer than is healthy.
For sure. I totally.
My question to you, because we only have a couple minutes left, Shirley, is when do you think a couple should come in for counseling? Like before, as they're getting into a relationship?
Yes. I just answered for her. Never mind.
I think it depends. I think it depends. It's also, I want to name, like, it costs money. It costs money to work with me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't take health insurance. I work with people who pay out of pocket, and I know it's an investment, but part of my rationale.
Why is it an important investment though?
What'd you say?
Why is it important?
Well, that part. And to some people it is. But one thing I would say is that some people think you have to go to therapy, whether you're a couple or an individual, once things go quote unquote bad. Or I'll be in therapy with someone, you know, and they're like, I don't have anything to talk about today. You know, everything's going well. And I'm like, well, let's talk about that. Because most of the time, if you're avoiding feeling fear, anger, sadness, the things you've labeled as bad, you probably have some avoidance of feeling really like full joy, full ecstasy.
Oh, yes.
You can't feel
the other side,
the joy and happiness if you will not touch the anger or the pain. So I think sometimes I think it could be healthy if, you know, people have the resources to do it, and like the priorities are there, like where they're like, yeah, we're just coming in because we're curious. That would be what a culture we would live in if people came to do self-inquiry work, whether it was therapy, yoga, fitness training, whatever it is, because all of those, I believe, or just because it's like, like, this is where I need to be. There's something I want to learn. I don't know what yet. I'm curious. What a different society we would be, because we live in a very know-it-all society. I know it all. I know myself. I know that person. You know, the yoga guru Osho says something like, to remember that we don't know our partners is actually so healthy. That we don't know.
Ooh,
Right?
that would change a lot. Yes.
But to like have that curiosity, like I have no idea what's gonna. I come to therapy with my therapist. I have no idea what's gonna happen every time I show up. I don't know. Sometimes I think I have an
Just
idea
be
what's
in the
going to talk
moment,
about.
be present
Be
for
present,
today. Yeah.
and be actually trusting of the present moment. Because most of the reason I believe people are not wanting to be present and are living in the past or projecting into the future is because there's a lack of trust of the present moment. That goes with the T word, trauma. Like being so traumatized, having traumatic experiences that haven't been integrated, that it's like, if I do that thing again, right, I let my guard down. I'm present. Something's going to come in and attack me or hurt me the way that it did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So how do we rebuild that trust with the present moment so that we can show up? Hi, I'm here to be in this radio show with y'all. We didn't know what we were going to talk about, but something's going to arise. That's a different way of approaching life. And in my opinion, I have to imagine our ancestors lived that way.
Yeah.
Pre-social media, pre-news, we were just chopping wood, cooking paint. You have to be present for that.
Sharing experiences.
Sharing that, singing songs, jamming together. It's a presence.
Man, we just at the tip of the iceberg with you, Shirley. Like, we need you to come in for a part 2 one of these days. Like,
yes.
we're at the end of the show. So for those that want to get in contact with you, if you have any events or anything going on, can you let our viewers know right now? Like, where can they find Shirley Johnson?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Soulistic Wellness, SOULISTIC Wellness. That's also my website, soulisticwellness.com. If you're in the Bay Area on Friday, that's tomorrow, September 9th, I will be hosting a full moon in Pisces. Shout out to all the Pisces. A Pisces full moon, Kundalini yoga, and sound bath in Piedmont. Excuse me, it's in Oakland. It's at the venues, the Montclair rooftop garage.
Okay.
All the info's on my website, and then later in the month, I will be hosting online, virtual, a Libra new moon Kundalini yoga and meditation workshop, which is going to be focused on relationships.
Nice.
Libra rose relationships. So shout out to the Libras. So those are 2 places you can catch me in the next 2 weeks, and you can also follow me on Instagram or subscribe to my mailing list on my website to hear our announcements or book a one-on-one session.
Oh man, that's so exciting.
Thank you. That's so
Thank you. Hey, thank you to all our viewers out there tuned in, getting this great information today. Like, every time we have these amazing guests come on, it's one of those things is take what you need, whatever information that you got today, just take it, absorb it, and see if it means anything. So thank you once again for tuning in to the Anything Can Happen show on KGPC 96.9 FM Oakland, streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. This is the Anything Can Happen show. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and tune in every week on Thursday live from our IG. We'll see you next time. Peace. Oh.
I didn't get to say thank you to you all on air, but thank you for having me.
I could have gone on.
I was like, we need a longer show. We need a longer show.
I'm happy to come back in the future.
Yay.
Oh, yeah.
Please do. Please do. I would love that. We would all love that.
And it'd be fun to have Brother Quezzy in here as well.
Good show.
Thank you.
You got Felicia fired up. Felicia, like,
I want to know. Come on,
We just touched the surface.
No, only it's good to kind of have that honest conversation, just particularly if you have a spouse that's cheating.